With all due respect, Carolina absolutely demolished Johnson C. Smith last Friday. But the question is there anything to be learned from playing such an inferior opponent? Absolutely there is.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shea. Joining me as he does every Wednesday is the man, Coach Pack Kilby. And we want to thank you for making this show your first listen or your first watch every single day. Please don't forget that we are free and available anywhere you get podcasts, so you can subscribe right now to make sure you don't miss a single second of your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs, which helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, folks, here's what Pack and I are going to do with you today. Excited to look back at this game from last Friday. Carolina's absolutely overwhelming victory, as you would hope and expect. But what we want to do is look back at the game, talk about it, unpack it a little bit. Then we're going to move to talking about what are the lessons learned that maybe are instructive of what we will see in the upcoming season. What can we take away from even an exhibition game as being helpful to us in knowing what this team will be? And then we're going to finish by talking about, okay, so what does that mean for the upcoming season kickoff against UNC-Wilmington on Monday, less than a week away? How is that real that that's here? But it is. Get amped. This season is upon us. So, Pack, great to be together. Let's start by unpacking and talking about Carolina's 101-40, a 61-point margin, not 71, as I had said in all the excitement afterwards, in this crazy 61-point victory.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, it felt like 71. I mean, I'll also say it felt like it because there was what felt like a 10-minute stretch in the second half where Johnson C. Smith didn't even score,
25-0 run.
Yeah, it was just pure dominance. And, you said something earlier about the outcome is what should be expected. And you were right, it is. But I don't think, we should take it for granted because –
What up, Louisville? What up, Louisville?
Syracuse flirted around with their opponent for a while. South Carolina loses in their exhibition with UNC Charlotte, which is definitely a higher level program, but nonetheless a loss. So anyways, expected outcome, yes. Should we take it for granted? No.
Good point. Great point, Pack. Yes, and so when you look at some of the just quick, stats of things that mattered, your highs, we had Caleb Love leading all scorers, 20 points. Pete Nance, although there was much made about the lack of arc on his three-point shot, finishes with 19 points, second leading scorer in this game. And, of course, Armando Bacot grabbing 20 rebounds in 23 minutes. I mean, it's just insane. He could have easily set an unofficial career high because this game doesn't count. And then, as you've said, Pack, in our show notes here, Dontrez Styles notably comes in with 10 rebounds of his own, had just 7 points. But love him finding ways to contribute beyond putting the ball in the bucket in terms of team high in assists, something we'll probably end up talking a lot about as we think about Caleb Love's efficiency this year. My man's dishing out 8 assists against just 2 turnovers in a game where RJ is on the bench. And you're like, what is Caleb going to do running the show tonight? Really pleased with how that turned out. And then Seth Trimble, obviously not his debut. That'll be on Monday. But in his exhibition debut, had 5 assists of his own and just 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
So, Pack, what else? Keep going.
Well, one thing I wanted to point out, just on the rebounds, I know we had Bacot with 20. We had Styles with 10. But, you got Leaky, you've got Nance, which Leaky kind of made a little jab at Nance, saying that he took some of his rebounds. It was all in good fun. But in all actuality, we have so many athletes that can go rebound the ball.
Yep, 100%.
And that's not including our extremely athletic guards that, like Caleb, Caleb can rebound well. Seth Trimble can rebound well. So
He's
a
got
lot
good
to like.
positional height.
Yes, yeah, a lot to like about our rebounding, which has always been a staple for Carolina basketball. And then, real quick, just some padlock stats, which is what I call stats that you look back and you go, oh, it kind of makes sense why we won so big. So the rebounding battle, Carolina won the rebounding battle 63-26.
Crazy.
That's pretty daggum dominant. 50% from the field. That's a point per possession, which is at least what you want. So that's good, especially against the zone. 23 total assists for the Tar Heels. So definitely did a good job of moving the ball, finding the right guy, and held Johnson C. Smith to 23.1% from the field. So definitely, if we're shooting 50% and they're shooting 23 and we're getting 63 rebounds, I'd say that's a pretty good recipe.
Yeah, you'll take that. I love this didn't quite happen in this game, but I love games where Carolina has more offensive rebounds than the opponent has defensive rebounds. And I know where it's not quite as big of an offensive rebounding advantage. Carolina's offensive rebounding percentage dropped precipitously last year under Hubert Davis, but they had 20 offensive rebounds to 21 defensive rebounds for Johnson C. Smith. So quickly here, folks, what we like to do when we're doing game recaps in order to honor, that's the phrase I'm looking for, Coach Dean Smith, we like to do a four corners takeaway from games. And so Pac has just come up with his four big takeaways from this game. And so Pac, why don't you unpack those for us here today?
Yeah. So, number one to me, what I was looking for and what I was wanting to see was not us being heavily reliant on our offense, but us having staples in our team defense and in our rebounding. And positive news, Tar Heels, that looks to me like that's the bread and butter of what we do. I thought, although the talent disparity was there, I think we all know that, I thought we looked pretty locked in defensively. And then obviously we've already talked about the rebounding battle. So for me, that's a strong takeaway from that game and what I was looking to see. The second thing I took away from it was the talent that we displayed that night was just unbelievable. And I'm sitting there going, we look like a Final Four national championship caliber team. And we didn't even play Puff Johnson, RJ Davis, Jalen Washington, and Justin McKoy, and which, Jalen and Justin, they might or might not play big roles, but we know for sure Puff and RJ will. And not having them and looking the way we did, man, kudos to Coach Davis, his staff, and the kids for stepping up and taking care of business the way they did. The third thing, and maybe the biggest thing, is D'Marco Dunn and Seth Trimble look like they're going to be pretty dadgum good. So, I mean, to me, and Isaac, you can comment on this a little bit, but I thought D'Marco didn't push too much. He wasn't forcing things. He just got out there, he played his game, and he looked pretty smooth doing it. What do you think?
I agree with you, Pac. I think, for his first career start, again, not in an official game, but still first career start, you expect him to press some. And I love what you said, hands up, cold takes exposed for both of us this summer in our preview of D'Marco. We did not think he would have this type of role on this team. Now, obviously his role in this game is bigger because RJ's sitting out, but he is clearly, as you've said here, going to have a role on this team. And that makes this team better. When he is able, along with Seth, to come in and give legitimate backup minutes that can allow Coach Davis to get RJ and Caleb the rest they need, not playing 35 minutes a game, that is phenomenal for this team's longevity.
Yeah. And, Coach Davis even mentioned in his post-game press conference how much he trusts D'Marco's defense, specifically on the ball. And said when D'Marco's playing, at gear 5, I think was the term he used, then he's really stinking good. And so if Coach Davis is saying that, we know he trusts him and we can expect him to have a role.
Absolutely. And he had a steal on one of the first couple possessions of the game. Out on the left wing, just took it from the dude. Yeah, great.
Yeah. And, Trimble, I thought Trimble displayed really good on-ball defense. He actually displayed pretty good off-ball defense. He has a knack for getting through screens and things like that, but also looked real smooth on the offensive end. Also didn't force it. Seemed like he was being pass first for the most part. So love that. Both those guys seem to be on the right track. And lastly, the fourth corner takeaway is Pete Nance is the fit that this team needs and that we hoped he would be. I know there's some concerns. I agree. The shot looked flat, but we got to remember that's really his first time to play competitively in the Dean Dome with the bleachers pulled out and people in the stands.
That's right.
Give him some time. The shooting backdrop's a little different there. He's going to be just fine. He gives us rebounding. He gives us, to me, I mean, I'm just spitballing here, and there's a lot of season left, but I thought he looked like maybe our second best defender. You know, his length was sharp. He was playing like 5 feet off of a guy from Johnson Smith, and he goes to shoot it, yet his hand was still right there in his face. So his length is just really, really disruptive, and he gives us a post presence and efficiency on offense, specifically if Bacot needs a breather or is in foul trouble. So he is exactly what we needed, and really glad he's a Tar Heel.
Amen to that. Once again, a reminder, let Brady Manek be Brady Manek. Let Pete Nance be Pete Nance. And we also think back about, we were all in on Matthew Meyer from Baylor coming to Carolina and ended up going to Illinois. And that opened the door for Pete Nance to come after he pulled out of the NBA draft. And I tell you what, I am elated that Matthew Meyer is not a Tar Heel. Come on, give me all the Pete Nance sauce that I can handle. Pack, love those four corners takeaways from this game. We are going to continue talking about this game. And while the game itself was not competitive, there are still lessons to be learned. We have some of those that we want to share with you, and we'll do so right after I tell you about Bet Online. BetOnline is your number one source for football betting and the start of the new basketball season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. Drake May is now tied for the 5th best Heisman odds at BetOnline. You love to see that. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering info with live betting, up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about all the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts. So, Pack, staying with this Johnson C. Smith blowout victory, we want to keep talking about that. But as we do, I want to remind you all to make sure for your second listen to today to check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter most to the biggest stories in sports, make sure you check this show out, available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. And so, Pack, we've got kind of 3. Here's what we can learn from the exhibition. I think the thought is, in a blowout like this against a team that just frankly isn't as talented, right? Like, we got to be honest about that. People often think, I mean, of course you're going to go out and win by 61, but as we've already acknowledged, that's not necessarily the case. But even against an inferior opponent, we certainly can learn things that can be helpful for us in understanding what this team will be. You have laid out for us 3 of those to talk about today. Why don't you go ahead and share those with the good people?
All right. Well, first of all, going into the game, I was just watching, what would the substitution pattern be and who would Coach Davis trust? Who would he lean on early? And we found out real quick when RJ Davis wasn't playing, he was going to lean on D'Marco Dunn to fill that role and start. And, to be quite honest with you, I was shocked by that. I don't know if you were, but I certainly was, because I thought Trimble would be the first guy off the bench. And so to me, we learned Coach Davis has trust in DeMarco. I know we've kind of already talked about that. I won't spend a ton of time on it. We just
Let me ask you this, though, Pack. Let me ask you, though, if RJ had been in the game, if RJ had started, do you still think, because I wonder maybe if Seth had been the one off the bench, right? And like DeMarco maybe gets the nod to start for RJ, given experience and stuff, but maybe Seth had leapfrogs him for 6th man coming in if RJ starts. I don't know. But there is that possibility.
Well, yeah, and maybe Coach Davis was saying, we know that Seth is going to be the 6th/7th man, and that's going to be his role. So maybe we start D'Marco and let Seth start to get comfortable coming off the bench for us and start to work into that role. That's certainly a possibility.
Yeah.
But my biggest takeaway is whether that's the reality or not.
Exactly.
Was we have faith in D'Marco Dunn now, just like Coach Davis does, because of what he proved to us on the floor. So nonetheless, it's positives all around in regards to that.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a legitimate, not what I thought, four-person backcourt that all can make plays. You'll love it.
Yep. Secondly, I think the thing that we take away from this game is that new faces can and will absolutely impact our season. And I know, we talked about Trimble, what he brings. Gosh, it's exciting having someone so explosive. That dunk he had, you don't see 6'3" freshman point guards getting up like that, man. You don't.
That was pretty.
Yeah, it was. It was very explosive. He had a couple baseline drives with some nice dump-off passes, one specifically early to Pete Nance. So he has good vision.
That was right after that was right when he checked in, because his first play, he got back. I think I can't remember if Caleb was still in with him at that point, but got back and intercepted like an outlet, like a full court outlet pass. Yep. And then it was on that next possession where he had that dump off to Pete. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So a pretty solid start for the young man. And then, looking past him, Tyler Nickel. We talk about so often, like, how cool it is that Caleb loves a microwave, right? Like, he can just get hot and he can stay hot. But it takes a specific skill set as a shooter to be able to come cold off the bench and hit threes. And Tyler did that. And if he can do that consistently in the season, then we're going to have to find a way to play him, because it's just tough to not play shooting, And as I know, he can be a little bit of a liability defensively.
Sure.
But they've already kind of been talking about how he's relied a lot on Leaky to help grow him as a defender. And obviously Jack Emanuel's there. And so those guys are working with him in regards to those weaknesses. But, man, if he can come off and provide that microwave shooting off the bench, that's just a huge boost for us. Yeah. And then another new face, although a veteran, Pete Nance, and, the fit that he is. And just, gosh, he's so efficient. Like, he finished with 19, but it felt like he only had 10. Like, he's just
quiet. Yep.
Yeah. And so I love that about him. He's unselfish. He passes well. He rebounds well. He defends well. He gives us an inside-out look. So the new faces are certainly going to make us a lot better.
Yeah. And I think we'll learn, going back to Tyler Nickel, I feel like these first couple games, there won't be a ton of learning about role, because there's going to be more opportunities, assuming Coach Davis digs into the bench a little bit. But I think it's really when we get out to Portland and then come back to to Bloomington to play Indiana. That's when we're really going to start seeing, like, what legitimate roles is like Tyler Nickel going to play? What legitimate role is D'Marco Dunn going to play? I think that's when we start really learning those kind of things.
Absolutely, yeah. And we all still have question marks about Jalen. We haven't got to see him play yet. So
exactly. And that brings up, like, to what you just said about Pete. When Mondo goes to the bench and Pete goes to the 5, who before Jalen's ready, who is playing the 4? It ain't going to be Will Shaver, I'll tell you that. And so maybe it's a small ball. Maybe it's Puff or Dontrez playing like a small ball 4 or something of that nature.
If I'm not mistaken, we actually had a lineup out there against Johnson C. Smith that actually included Nance, Styles, Leaky, and then 2 of the 3 guards. I don't remember exactly who it was, but I think we had that lineup out there for a little bit. And, if Jalen's not ready to go, guys, I wouldn't be, too surprised to see something like that. I think we can do that.
Because with the depth of this team, there's absolutely zero reason to get Jalen Washington going before he's ready, because they don't need to rely on him. Absolutely. Don't rush it. Let him be 100%. Cool. Sure. Pac, what about your third learning lesson?
Yeah, so one of the things that I want everyone to take away from this is I think Coach Davis, rightfully so, expects to be zoned and pressed a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised. This is just a little bit of an educated guess, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that or say that Coach Davis probably asked them to run some zone and do some pressing just because, this was an exhibition for the Tar Heels, and Johnson C. Smith, although wanted to come in and compete, they're coming in to help the Tar Heels get ready to play their season. And, the benefit for them is they got to play in the Dean Dome and got a little money, along the way. So I'm guessing he asked for that. And we all remember the Baylor game specifically, right? They picked up and they pressed us. And, boy, we were throwing the ball off the backboard. We were doing
literally throwing the ball off the backboard.
Yeah.
Leaky Black.
So,
I love you, brother.
Yeah, same. He's done enough good that we can forget about that. But nonetheless, it was a weakness. And so I think Coach Davis was attacking that early. Let's get some reps against the press, against someone that's not wearing the same uniform as us, right? Like, they can do it in practice all they want, but sometimes it helps to just see another team press you. And then the zone, too. When you look at our team, man, it's like, God, how do we guard them? So expect some zone. And it was really good to see us move the ball the way we did. We got the ball to the middle. We played from the inside out. And so being able to attack those things and for the young players to get some experience against that early on was just huge for us.
You know what I'm practically giddy about that I cannot wait for, Pack, is
What's
when
that?
Carolina plays Syracuse, to watch Pete Nance operate out of the high post with Mondo down in the low post and that big-to-big passing and him just – like being that facilitator up by the free throw line, down to Mondo, out to the wing, swinging across it. Like, have fun that night, Pete Nance. Bring it on. And when we think about these ball handlers, I mean, legitimately this year, you have 3 legit ball handlers in RJ, Caleb, and Seth. And then obviously D'Marco, Leaky, they, when called into service as needed, they can do that and be reliable. Pete Nance can bring the ball up as needed. But man, you have, I want to see Hubert Davis employ a lineup with Love, Davis, and Trimble, all 3 out there at the same time. I mean, it would just be insane. But you have to feel so comfortable. Press us at your peril because these dudes can handle the ball well.
Absolutely.
Well, man, so what do these lessons learned that Pac just shared with us, what do they do to prepare us for UNC-Wilmington next Monday night? And what are the Seahawks bringing to the table this year? We'll get that table set for you right after I tell you about LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's incredibly easy to create a free job post, so why not give it a try? Add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your profile to let people know that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skill set and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and ultimately hire. You want to finish the year strong, and the right new hire can help you do just that. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Pac, it's hard to believe the regular season is on us, but it is. The UNC-Wilmington Seahawks are coming to the Smith Center Monday night, November 7th, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central, on the ACC Network for those of you who can't be there in person. As we think about this UNC-Wilmington team, what should we expect from them as they come in?
Yeah, so in some ways there's familiarity, in some ways there's not. So Takayo Siddle is the head coach at UNC-Wilmington. He was, UNC-Wilmington kind of has that history of hiring UNC and NC State assistants, and at least the last few hires, and this one is an NC State assistant. So he's been with Kevin Keats for a while. Sure, there's some similarities there, and that may help with the scouting report.
Yeah.
But this
for
is
both teams, that is
exactly. So this is his second season. UNC-Wilmington last year had the second most wins in school history. They finished 27-9. And why there's not some familiarity is because UNC-Wilmington graduated their 2 leading scorers and 4 of their top 5 leading scorers. So they're going to have some fresh faces. They graduated their top 3 rebounders. So this is a team that really has a lot of question marks coming into Chapel Hill. I'm afraid they're probably gonna need to wait to get some answers because there's quite a bit of talent disparity in this one also.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you look at, I was looking at their KenPom ranking. UNC Wilmington's coming in at in the outside the top 200 this year. They're 204th in the KenPom preseason rankings, and so yeah, I mean it's one of those where it is a true get your feet wet kind of game for the Tar Heels. I mean it's going to be a better team than they faced on Friday night against Johnson C. Smith, but it's not all that dissimilar if the Tar Heels come out and take care of business. Speaking of which, Pack, what can we expect from the Tar Heels in this season opener?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the typical stuff that Coach Davis always talks about, and rightfully so. He's going to talk about energy and effort, and we should always expect that from a Tar Heels basketball team. And I think we see that. It's the season opener. The first time the Dean Dome is going to be mostly full. The student section is going to be rocking. There's no reason not to bring the energy and effort, right? It's the season opener, so we can expect that. I expect us to continue to set the standard or set the tone for the season with defensive performance and offensive rebounding and just rebounding in general. So hopefully those are 2 things that we definitely see. And then if we're taking care of business like we should, I hope we're hearing a lot of names being called, getting young guys in, getting valuable minutes. Hopefully Jalen is healthy enough that we get a chance to see him play and succeed and do well. And so those are some things that I would keep an eye open for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think back to last year, like you said, with UNC Wilmington tied for first in the Colonial Athletic League, they're predicted to finish, like 5th, 6th this year. I think the Almanac had them finishing 5th in their preseason predictions. And so, yeah, I mean, your keys here, as I read through what you put on this, it was the exact things that I had said leading into the exhibition game. Like, this is about Carolina doing what Carolina needs to do. Come out and know you're the number 1 team in the country and show why. Because you don't play down to inferior opponents. Yeah. In many ways, like this is all, again, similar to what I said about Johnson C. Smith. All due respect to UNC Wilmington. This is not about them. This is about Carolina learning how to be up and rolling from day 1 of the regular season. And so while I know it is not a high level opponent, you can do the things that you like. I can't tell you how many comments I've seen following Friday night where people are like, I know Johnson C. Smith is not good compared to Carolina, but I was super impressed by what I saw from the Tar Heels. And that's like exactly what I'm looking for in this one. And like you said, I think we're going to get an early look at, is Coach Davis going to be true to his word about using more depth this season? I'm really curious to see the numbers, like how many minutes the starters play, assuming, as you said, they do what they need to do.
Another, just to pay some homage to another Tar Heel legend, but another quote that popped to mind there was Woody Durham, "Go where you go and do what you do." Right? That's a classic quote. And so we need to see Carolina go where they go and do what they do it well, and just handle their business.
That's right. And a lot of Tar Heels fans around the country and around the world are going to be doing just that, going to their place to help the Tar Heels do exactly what they need to do. Well, Pac, let's just wrap up here with just maybe a couple things to be watching for, like some big picture ideas. We've looked at both teams. What are some things to watch for? And folks, by the way, we're going to do a full big preview of the game on Monday's show, so be ready for that. But right now, we just want to hit some little quick hitter takeaways.
Yeah, just real quickly, one thing that Coach Davis has kind of already alluded to, we should have a clean injury report. So hopefully everybody's clear, good to go, and we get to put eyes on all Tar Heels because that means we're healthy, and that's exactly what we want at this point in the season. And so next, I would say substitution patterns, something to keep an eye on. We kind of already alluded to the Trimble and Dunn, who's going to come off the bench first. And so that's something to watch how he handles the bigs. Just keep an eye on it. We're going to learn and experience just like you guys are in real time. And so it'll definitely be something cool to see how Coach Davis handles that, because he hasn't had a chance to before. Yeah. We were rocking with the Iron 5 last year.
That's right. Put you on the spot. Who's first off the bench?
Puff Johnson.
I agree.
Yep, assuming he's healthy, I think it's Puff.
Yeah. And speaking of which, everything we've heard is that Puff will play, RJ will play, as Pack has said. I'm right with you. I think Puff's the first man off the bench under normal circumstances, assuming there's not foul trouble or an injury or something like that.
And
all right. What about your third one, Pack?
So excited to see Puff play. I think he's made a lot of improvements this year, maybe even flown under the radar a little bit. So really excited to see him. Lastly, my question going into the game, do we get to see UNC-Wilmington run a man defense? And if so, how do we look against it? There's been some talk about some changes happening within the offensive scheme that involves some more handoffs and becoming a little bit trickier to guard. So just keep your eye on that, and let's see what we look like.
Man, here you go. Here's a last question. Armando Bacot, plus or minus, over under 20 rebounds.
I'll go under, because I think Carolina takes care of business and he doesn't play enough to get that many rebounds.
That's right. Absolutely. If he was playing 30 minutes in this game, absolutely he'd have 20. I just think he's only going to be on the court 20 to 25 minutes. And even still, he could have 20 rebounds. I'm with you. I think it's under only because of a lack of minutes. I love it. Pat Kilby. Man, great to unpack the Johnson C. Smith game. What a wonderful way to start leading into the regular season, and really looking forward to Monday night's regular season kickoff. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait to tune in. Pat Kilby, thanks for all your insight on that. Can't wait to unpack that game as well next week. Folks, that is it for today's episode of Locked on Tar Heels. Coming up, while we hope the basketball team will be injury-free, the football team has injuries galore right now, and so we got to talk about that, plus a Virginia preview coming up on Friday. You can follow the show at Locked on Tar Heels on Twitter. You can follow our guy Pack at Coach_K23. You can follow me at Isaac Shade. Thanks for making Locked on Tar Heels your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked on Sports Today podcast. Biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and of course, the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and anywhere else you get podcasts. Let me remind you to subscribe, smash the like button, comment on the show on what you're looking forward to on the game on Monday. We want to thank you so much for hanging out with us on a Wednesday, talking Carolina basketball. For our guy, Pat Kilby, I'm Isaac Shade, and we want to remind you that it is always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Until tomorrow, peace.